the other day, I think I had someone that was at a 15 for arsenic. I remember when I came to you and I was high in arsenic too. And I didn't even know.
Is somebody trying to poison you?
Yes. Yeah, they were. My relationship. No, I'm just kidding. No.
The following podcast is a Healthy Dog production. Welcome to the Healthy Dog Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nigma Talib. I'm a leading naturopathic doctor now for over 20 years, and I've consulted thousands of patients with chronic illnesses. I've had clinics all over the world, and I have a #1 bestseller, Younger Skin Starts in the Gut. Listen, I know there's a lot of health information out there in the health and wellness world, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So I'm here to set the record straight and give you my expertise along with my expert guests here in studio in sunny Los Angeles.
I only take drugs with other people who take them on a regular basis because I don't have time for that.
A lot of chronic diseases stem from mitochondrial dysfunction.
Yes. And you know what I love talking about, right? Poop.
Yes. You can ask me about my poop?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about poop.
Okay, please.
This podcast is your go-to for achieving optimal wellness from the best of beauty and longevity and everything in between, because after all, wellness comes from the inside out. My very special guest and friend, Elissa Goodman, is here in studio. She's a renowned integrative holistic nutritionist. I call her, and she doesn't know it yet, the Cleanse Queen. Her personal journey is really inspiring. She has overcome significant health challenges, including cancer and autoimmune issues that have enlightened her to take control of her own health. And she's also helping others in doing so. The most fun part about this is I love it that we are good friends and we also see patients together. Right. So I'm so excited to have Elissa Goodman here today. Thank you, Elissa, for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for being in my life.
I mean, this is like the perfect opportunity for us to just geek out on everything, nutrition, wellness, seeing patients.
Yes.
So I want to start with that because you see patients and we see patients together. Mm-hmm. And I just want people out there to like have a little bit of an idea of what you do with patients. I just want you to walk me through like, you know, your interview process and your consultations.
Okay. So seeing patients is my favorite thing to do. I think also because I absolutely adore people like you do. And I just want to get to know them and what makes them tick, and also what is going on in their life that isn't working. And whether it's physical or emotional, you know, it's mental, all of the above, right? So I think that like my interview process is really about first diving into like, what's working for you, what isn't working for you, and whether we talk about physical and emotional. Sometimes I have more fun with the emotional part. Just because I can feel their energy even on the Zoom calls. Like, you know, I can tell when they say, oh yeah, everything's great with my husband or my job. And I can tell, like you can pretty much, oh, things aren't so great. Let's ask a few more questions about that, you know, and then you find out it's so stressful. And, you know, like there's a lot of reasons why people, you know, don't feel well. And we know a lot of them come from emotional well-being or just living in fight or flight mode, I feel like. So that has been the biggest, I think, success for me, is to really, you know, dive in emotionally with them and mentally. And I just, every time I get on the phone or Zoom with someone, I feel like they're my friend too. I just connect with them and bond with them. And then I go into the physical. And then a lot of times we kind of go into, you know, what foods are you eating? How much are you drinking? What's your sleep like? Exercise, all the basics. You know, are they getting enough fiber? Are they getting enough protein? Are they getting enough vegetables? I mean, it kind of is endless. And then supplements. What supplements are they taking? And I find that fascinating because lately people have been overdosing on supplements.
Okay.
And on the wrong ones, on the cheap ones, on the crappy ones, or on the ones that people are just selling out there like crazy on social media, which has been a little nuts. And then they're like, these aren't doing anything for me, but they're not taking the right dosage. Right. So we geek out all about all that stuff.
Yes.
I mean, knowing the right dosage, knowing, you know, like your supplements, no fillers, you know, just really things that are clean. But most of my clients don't know that.
So what are most of your clients, like if you were to give us like a snapshot, like what are people eating?
Oh, I would say that, they're eating a lot of carbs,
Okay.
a lot. They're drinking alcohol too. They're probably, and also right now, protein is a big deal. Like before in the years prior to this year, it was a lot of trying to go plant based or plant forward. But now people are just ODing on the protein. Some are, some aren't, some need it because they're exercising and building muscle and all that. But they're eating like crappy protein and bad seed oils. And they're eating out a lot and ordering in from Postmates. So I'm seeing that a ton. And just overdoing, I would say even some of the healthy stuff, the nuts and seeds, they're overdoing those things.
It's tough because wellness is it's so complicated now because there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
And people are trying to understand like what is right for me. And, I know you do this cleanse. And then when we think of the word cleanse, we think of starving, right? So first thing we think of like, okay, and I know for a fact on your cleanse, I do your cleanse regularly.
Yeah.
The EG cleanse, for those of you out there that don't know, Elissa has a cleanse that gets delivered right to your door. And I actually find it a lot of food. I actually find like I have leftover food, but I'm chewing a lot and I'm eating a lot of vegetables. So,
Yeah.
I think, is there something like 50 vegetables in your cleanse?
50 different vegetables in 5 days. Who can say they eat like that? Usually.
That is incredible because I don't know if people know this, but the gut microbiome, like you're not actually feeding yourself, you're feeding your gut microbiome.
True.
Right? And your gut microbiome feed off of, things called short chain fatty acids. We've all heard of butyrates and butyric acid. And how do we create butyric acid? Vegetables.
Right.
So what happens what are butyric acids? I mean, they're super important for colonic epithelial cells. They help, the pH of the gut, for example, because the pH of the gut changes. And the vegetables like really, really help.
Right.
The whole, migratory motor complex. I mean, it's incredible. So I've been on your cleanse for 5 days. Walk us through that cleanse from start to finish, because I know you've got the tonics and everything.
Right. I have 4 different cleanses now, and one because of you at the liquid cleanse, which is really fun to be doing. But the first one that I developed was like really just getting people to try to eat more vegetables and feel like feel differently in 5 days. Like it's very plant forward. We do a detox tonic, which is a probiotic drink with apple cider vinegar and, like kefir and chlorophyll and lemon and ginger and things like that. Then we do a homemade super seed bar. Then we do a salad that's quite large, like you were saying. They're massive. Different ones every day, and fermented veggies in the afternoon, soups at night, because I feel like it's nice to keep it light, in the evening, and then a latte for like after dinner. And we give digestive enzymes, and we also give magnesium. So we make sure that they go to the bathroom regularly. And it's very, like, there are a lot of legumes and beans on it and quinoa and plant-based protein, but there's a bone broth as well. So there is a chicken bone broth. I love our bone broth. And then we do now give animal protein if someone requests it. So we do salmon and chicken because that has become more popular. So they'll eat all, and it's not really taking them off the cleanse. Now, all that food does feel like you're eating more than usual, but your body knows how to digest it and knows how to metabolize it because it's real food. And it's not sugar, it's not gluten, it's not dairy, it's not bad seed oils. It's like food that can be digested quickly and make its way through the digestive tract, I feel, fast. And that's sort of the idea. Just to lower inflammation, get better brain ability, sleep better, and I want to feed these people a lot of food because they also lose weight in 5 days.
Right.
So I want them to know that they don't have to starve to lose weight.
Almost everyone I have on the cleanse loses weight and also improves their gut microbiome markers.
Yeah.
Which is super important because, I do a lot of stool testing and before and after.
Right.
So quite often I'll see improvement after your cleanse, after eating, just 5 days of eating like this, we talked about the butyrates. The butyrates are the colonic epithelial cell. They're kind of the batteries of the colonic epithelial cells. That's like a tongue twister. And
Slightly.
They provide this energy, and, if you are doing that, you're going to prevent all sorts of things like SIBO. I've built my entire clinical philosophy and even wrote a book called Younger Skin Starts in the Gut around one simple truth. If your gut isn't optimal, nothing else works. Genova Diagnostics GI Effects Test is the gold standard in functional stool testing, mapping your microbiome, digestion, inflammation, and nutrient absorption with clinical precision. It's a crappy job, but someone has to do it. And no one does it better than Genova. Visit genovaconnect.com and use my code HEALTHYDOC15 for 15% off your first stool test. I want to talk about SIBO with you because that is like the number one. It's now, we go through our phases of everybody having adrenal fatigue, and I think SIBO is like the really hot topic right now.
Right.
And I think going on your plan is a really good way to, pull down that SIBO.
I do too. I mean, also, it's really important to build up that gut to protect you from getting SIBO, right?
Yes. We'll talk about, SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth for those listening.
Right.
And it's basically bacteria have gone in the wrong location. So the small intestinal bacteria have gone into a different area. I look at it as locations, Santa Monica versus Beverly Hills, for example.
Right.
People have moved over to one side and they're not supposed to live in that side.
Right.
So it's like bacteria living in the wrong place.
Right.
And
why does it go there? Like, why does it happen? I'm just
Well, it's this migrating.
People don't know.
Yeah, it's this migrating motor complex. Have you been through a car wash where those little things like sort of clean your car and sweep away the dirt?
Yeah,
that's what's supposed to happen at that juncture with the duodenum and the small intestine.
Right.
And when it doesn't happen, and the food doesn't get swept into the large intestine, what happens to that food sitting in the small intestine? The bacteria feed on it, and then you start to have gas and bloating.
Right.
And that's where you don't get nutrients absorption. And so with your plan, not only are we getting nutrients from the vegetable fibers that the bacteria are feeding off of and producing these butyrates, but they're also nurturing and increasing the nutrients in the body. So I think it's a beautiful plan. And I actually see people not only lose weight, but they have more energy.
Right. I love that. And also the new cleanse that we came up with, the 3-day, I feel like that is exceptional for SIBO.
Yes.
Because we're really emptying out the gut, and I don't think that people ever have an empty digestive tract. I think it's important at times, right?
To rest it.
Yeah, to rest it. Yeah, we're always digesting food, and food is not going in and out of the system, and it is staying in, the small intestine and not going into the large colon and going where it needs to go. Yeah, people are so constipated. That's it's an epidemic of, I think SIBO comes from constipation too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And it's dehydration.
Yeah, and dehydration. Is huge.
We're all dehydrated. Sometimes I'll just give a patient an IV bag just to hydrate them because they're so dehydrated. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we're all so dehydrated?
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we take a lot of over-the-counter meds that are synthetic, and I think they dehydrate us. I think animal protein dehydrates us.
Okay.
I think cow dairy dehydrates us, caffeine dehydrates us,
Definitely.
right? So I think that there's a lot that we don't, and sugar, I think possibly, right? So am I on the right track? I think all of those things we're eating and we're drinking that are dehydrating. Plus, I feel like what really hydrates us is minerals in the water or in the soil or in, the food. But we don't have minerals in the food and we don't have it in the soil. So we're not really eating, enough of that. And minerals, I think, help the water go into the cells, right?
Absolutely.
So, 2 to 3% dehydration is just a deal killer for people.
Yeah.
You can't think straight. I don't think you're able to really go to the bathroom regularly, right? If you're dehydrated.
Yes.
So all of those things, that's why I think the celery juice with the medical medium was like, everyone was like, oh my God, the celery juice is the end all. And I don't know, do you believe that it was because of the minerals?
I
It
do.
hydrated people.
Yeah, there's
right?
certain nutrients in celery that, help with autophagy, for example.
Right.
But it's hard to know. It's like, is it because there's so many variables,
I know,
right?
true.
And one man's, poison's another man's medicine.
Right.
Not everyone can do celery juice.
I
I've had a
agree.
few patients get quite sick on it. So,
No, I agree. I don't
especially
think
if you're not buying organic.
Yeah.
So you're juicing all these pesticides. So there's a couple of variables. I think you do it really well. I think that your cleanses.
Thank you.
I don't know. It should be called something else because people think cleanse is just like a starvation thing.
I know.
So I want to go
True.
back to that.
That
so
is-
you're feeding people.
Yeah. But it's like, yes, it's cleansing and nourishing and nurturing the body. I think, we talk about detoxing all the time, and that's so crucial. We need all the detoxification phases to happen, right? To get things out of our system as well. So I feel like, this is part of that. Right.
I mean, where there's pollution, there used to be dilution.
Right.
I felt like I was like Tony Montana from Scarface for a second there. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
Where
Yeah.
he says, your womb is
Can
so
you say that
polluted,
again? That was really cool.
you can't even have a baby. Do you remember? That was so funny.
Right.
So,
No,
I mean, I think, if you don't drink water, how are you going to, and the pancreas, I think, needs 1 to 2 liters of water a day
Right.
to digest the juices. And we know our pancreas is so important because it helps break down all the food that we eat.
Yes.
And if you're not breaking down that food, what happens? You're going to get the farts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Gassy.
yeah, very gassy. And we don't want that. That's not very sexy.
It's so important, all of these things. And they're simple things. Hydration is simple to get hydrated, right? It's also simple to add more vegetables to your diet, right? So it's also simple to make sure you're going to the bathroom every day. It's just like, these aren't expensive things. These are very doable, very accessible.
Yeah.
That I feel like people need to really be focused on.
So walk us back. I'm going to just rewind a little bit because for those listening that are like, okay, what is this cleanse? I want to do it. You start off with a tonic, an AM tonic.
Yes.
I love that. I just love the taste of it. I love vinegary things generally.
So do I.
But I really find that is such a nice start to the day. What's in that tonic?
So what's in the tonic is a coconut kefir, so it's full of probiotics.
Okay.
And then it's an apple cider vinegar and chlorophyll and lemon and ginger. And sometimes we have, on our gut cleanse, we put additional probiotics in it. So I feel like, of course, the apple cider vinegar is great for lowering blood sugar and insulin, and also, just really getting your digestive juices flowing,
Ready to go.
right? Ready to go for the day. So I love that. And also, people are saying it lowers their sugar cravings.
Totally. And it
So-
makes sense because the stomach pH needs to be between 1 and 2. People don't realize that your stomach is a very acidic environment. It has to be acidic.
Right.
It cannot be alkaline because it's breaking down your proteins, it's annihilating bacteria and candida.
Right.
So that apple cider vinegar, I feel like it's a game changer, especially when we're hitting over the age of 30 and 40 where we're going into hypochlorhydria. So I think that morning tonic is so key. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Next step is
a home. It's like either a bone broth you could drink,
Yes.
depending on if you're intermittent fasting, because you could do the tonic and the bone broth and just do liquids until lunch. So we have a bar that we also make. It's the only thing on the cleanse that has a little bit of sugar.
the seed bar.
Yeah, the seed bar,
my
but
God,
it's
my
high in
favorite.
fiber.
Yes.
And then that salad is the next thing that is massive. And people are like, they put it in a bowl and they're like, I'm never going to be able to finish this. And then they finish the whole thing. And they don't feel like full and bloated, and which is really remarkable when we get the feedback from that.
And it all comes in glass jars, which I love.
Jars, yeah. And then the fermented veggies, again, are just good for digestion. And then I love the soups because they're just like easy on the digestive system. and then the lattes are beautiful because they kind of get you ready for bed and like kind of calm you. The reishi one is my favorite one. The cacao reishi one is very
love that
calming for
one.
the system. And then there's a turmeric one that I love too, but it's just very, I just want people to not ever feel hungry or starving or just deprived at all. So I think that if they don't feel that way, they'll continue to eat this way. They'll feel like, wow, this is, really making me feel great. And I think I can do this. Maybe they won't do the 50 different vegetables in the 5 days, but they will add more vegetables into their diet. And maybe they will make the tonic and have the seed bar. We also do a la carte now because of a lot of the people that have done the cleanse for years just want to order certain things. And that's really fun too. Everything's organic. So it's all fresh and organic and
Taste
just
it, yeah.
It's
And you can stay on it too.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
I
could.
have one patient in particular that just continues to order it. I think it's been like 7 months now.
Wow.
Except when she travels,
Right.
which is tough. But, I think staying on it is not a problem because it's super healthy.
Right.
And, especially when you do come back, I feel like when I come back from Europe, I order your cleanse because it's like I'm craving all sorts of things at different times of the day because I'm on a different
Time
time
zone.
zone. So it's an easy way without like ordering delivery or Uber Eats or something like that, and then ordering the wrong thing.
I know.
And it's nice to have that bone broth and that tonic, and it's so healing. It feels so nourishing, and it's filling at the same time.
Yeah.
And the dressings, the salad dressings are so good.
No, the chef.
I'm a salad dressing junkie.
Yeah, same.
And I love it.
Same. And the chef we have now is just exceptional. We just changed 4 new soups on the menu this week. We have 5. And when he tested those 4 new soups, like every one of them was better than the next.
Tell us.
I'm like,
Can you tell us about the soups?
oh my God.
they out
Like,
there?
I mean, they're just, I'm trying to think, we're doing, the golden summer, a creamy dandelion, a chunky zucchini, and a lemony lentil. So, I mean, they're just, they're
The lemony lentil sounds divine.
It is.
I love lemony lentil.
I love lemon too.
Me
so
too.
but it's just really and they're very filling.
Yes.
So and we make sure that there's like a minimum of 60 grams of protein with the plant-based protein. So that's why I'm just always making sure with people or clients, because a lot of them need more than 60, as you know.
Yes.
And so I'll say to them, if you want some chicken, organic chicken or grass-fed, we'll get that. Salmon for you. And a lot of times they'll do that 4 nights of the week instead of the 5, but for some reason. So the men usually do that. Yeah. And it doesn't take them off the cleansing regime because it's still clean.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
True wellness lives in the smallest details: the air you breathe, the water you wash with, and the surfaces you touch. That's why Koala Eco, with their beautiful botanical ranges for home, laundry, body, and even pets, is the only brand I trust. Elegant living without compromise. Visit koalaeco.com, that's KOALAECO.com, and use my code HealthyDoc15 for 15% off your first order. So what made you come up with this cleanse? Like what prompted you to do something? Because it's a big undertaking.
It is a big undertaking. I know. It's been 10 years now.
Wow.
And when I graduated from my Eastern and Western, nutrition program, I got hired by Cafe Gratitude and M Cafe to actually put a food program together for both of those restaurants. M Cafe was really popular, macrobiotic in those days. Cafe Gratitude's still around, vegan, So it was so easy. I just took their food and kind of put it together. And also growing up, I was in marketing and advertising. So I knew how to market and advertise myself, and I knew how to do these cleanses. So I think it was like a fun project to actually just take their fabulous food and combine it and make this 5-day program. And then I handheld the cleansers through the program, and I found out what worked and what didn't work for them. So I eat more macrobiotic than I do the vegan lifestyle. But then I did one for Erewhon for a very short amount of time. So again, I kind of took what worked and what didn't work from all of these programs and thought, wow, why don't I just do my own? Because it was it was hard with the restaurants because they weren't in the cleanse business.
Right.
So they couldn't really take care of the cleansers. and the cleansers wouldn't feel well. Some of them would have too much sugar in the vegan, one with Cafe Gratitude because the smoothies had too much sugar.
That's the problem is all these smoothies
Yeah.
with sugar in them.
Yes, they're really bad. Or just the food had too much sugar, or they just just that vegan cold food didn't agree with them. So the macrobiotic didn't have as many issues as the cold vegan stuff. But I just realized I saw what worked. Hot cooked food and cold could be okay for some, depending on the time of year too, as we always talk about.
Eating for seasons,
Yeah.
different seasons.
Right.
It's super important because that's what your body needs. Let's go into that,
Yeah.
eating for the seasons.
Right. I mean, I think, in the summer, it's okay, if you believe this, to have some more sugar because we burn through our sugar
Right.
faster, okay? Right?
We sweat more.
We do. And also, it's good to have raw. We could have more raw
I agree.
during the summer. So, but going into fall and winter, it needs to be more cooked and nourishing and
Hibernating.
nurturing. Yeah, totally.
We're moving less.
Right.
We need more warmth. It's kind of like we need to warm up our car.
Right.
I call myself a 52-year-old Porsche.
Yeah.
I need to warm up in the morning and have,
Right.
bone broth or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I do find that it really warms me up, or some kind of warm millet cereal or something like that, because especially in the winter.
I agree.
But in the summer, I let it go. I do a bit more cold foods as well.
I have to admit, I am definitely someone who doesn't like cold food, cold food, period. Like I let my salads sit out so that they're at room temperature a little bit. I let the smoothies sit out so I don't ever drink a cold smoothie. Or the
Interesting.
detox tonic, sometimes that sits out. Like I don't think it agrees with me. So it just also, we've got to pay attention to what, even in the summer, I don't think the cold stuff really agrees with me.
Interesting. We're all so different.
I know.
I love the cold. I love cold water.
Really?
No, it's not.
Yeah, I never drink cold water. Room temperature, it's like, please don't put ice in anything.
Right.
I know. I just feel like I just don't feel good digestive wise when I do it too cold.
And we are all so different. That's the beauty of coming to a practitioner such as yourself and also naturopathic medicine, because we actually look at individuals. And I know, like you, we both run tests on patients. Tell us about the lab tests you've been doing on your patients, because I get some of them from your patients, and it's like, I know you've sent me a few patients,
Right.
and quite a few patients actually, and it's just some of the blood work you're doing is really exactly the same blood work that we as naturopathic doctors do. So we're super aligned.
Yeah.
Talk to me about blood testing with your patients, and how often you're doing it, and when you started this.
Well, I was getting really frustrated with
Yes.
clients because I was getting these blood tests that showed me nothing. It gave me a TSH, and then it gave me like a glucose number.
Yeah.
It didn't give me A1C, right? It didn't give me T3, T4 for your thyroid. It didn't give me insulin, cortisol. Even with the hormones, it was lacking in terms of full panels. And I was like, and they weren't feeling well. So I'm like, okay, so your TSH is perfect, but what's the T3, T4, right? Or reverse T3 or other. Or one client, it was so interesting. She went on thyroid medication because her TSH was out of whack, but no one ever tested her antibodies. So she goes on the Synthroid, which is wild because it's made with wheat also, and then we test her antibodies, and she's super high in Hashimoto's. So I was like, wow, the doctor never did that for you? She's like, yeah, I kept telling the doctor I don't feel good on the Synthroid. They kept upping the dosage of the Synthroid, right? So it's really crazy out there. Or vitamin D levels are very low and they're not testing them all the time. So, or ferritin and whole iron panels, right? There's just so much that was lacking, or even has some heavy metals. I know it's a snapshot into what's going on in somebody's body, but the other day, I think I had someone that was at a 15 for arsenic. I remember when I came to you and I was high in arsenic too, and I didn't even know.
Is somebody trying to poison you?
Yes. Yeah, they were. My relationship. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Oh dear.
Sorry. So yeah, it was my water. We checked the water. We did further
Right.
investigation. My reverse osmosis machine wasn't working, but 15 and 10 on mercury for this person. And there's
Insane.
all kinds of autoimmune issues going on, and it was wild. And so I'm like, we further testing on the heavy metals. We need to get these heavy metals down, like you believe in.
Oh,
you know,
definitely.
right?
That's
the
why we test them.
cornerstone. Right, right.
And it's also found in chicken, you know that? Arsenic.
Yeah, and rice.
Yes.
If you're not having a certain Lemberg rice, I think they check
Yeah,
their
that's
rice
right.
for arsenic, I think. So, and then the mercury too. It was fascinating because it was a 60-year-old and 62, and she still had mercury fillings, but she had gotten the fillings when she was in her 20s.
So they were leaking.
I think yeah, exactly.
The other thing is like somebody, you know, we live in LA where a lot of people like overdose on sushi here.
Right, true.
Because it's
Right,
just
they
so
do.
good.
I know.
And so I'll quite often say, hey, are you eating a lot of sushi? And they'll be like, yes, how did you know?
Right, right. Your mercury is, huh?
Your mercury is super high. And then
know.
the other thing is different collagen powders out there have
Yeah.
mercury in them.
That's true.
So I had a patient taking a well-known brand of collagen, and I had to get her off the collagen because it was the only common denominator because she wasn't eating fish.
Right.
I got her off, and lo and behold, it dropped. But I had to chelate it out. You can chelate it out through vitamin C and other, as you know, like cilantro, and
Right.
there's a lot of different ways we can chel out mercury. But the
Right.
key is to get rid of it. You know, get rid of the source.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I find that like that's fascinating me, that whole heavy metals stuff. And then,
Me too.
you know, also just the hormonal issues, you know, even with younger people, like it's so beautiful that you test, you know, DHEA and pregnenolone, or even doing the Dutch test is fantastic, I think. I think both blood and Dutch, which I believe in that you do, is really important as well. And these low cortisol numbers or high cortisol numbers, you know, I mean, I just can't believe doctors aren't just further testing and really getting to the bottom of why someone isn't feeling well.
Oh, it's true because, you know, they have a top-down approach, the conventional medical model.
Right.
Whereas our model is bottoms up. No
Right.
pun intended. We do a
Right.
lot of stool testing. Like we really get in there, talk about poop, find out like who's living in there.
Yeah.
And, you know, for example, you know, 10 to 15 years ago, I was testing calprotectin and eosinophil PX levels in stool. And conventional docs were like, what are you doing? And now it's standard.
I know.
So I think what's happened, Elissa, is like we're 10 to 15 years ahead of what's happening in the conventional model. And we have to continue to pioneer it because patients have questions and patients want to understand why they're feeling crummy and looking at, you know, the root cause of why.
Yes.
You know, I want to share something that could literally slow down how you age inside and out. Let's talk about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT. You've probably heard of it being used for athletes or wound healing, but what you may not know is the latest research is showing powerful benefits for cellular regeneration, brain health, and even reversing some biological markers of aging. Hyperbaric chamber works where you breathe in oxygen at higher than normal pressure. This process stimulates your tissues with oxygen and beyond what your body can normally get in. That extra oxygen jumpstarts your cells, helps natural repair processes, reduces inflammation, and boosts collagen production. It even stimulates the growth of new blood vessels. Studies have shown improvements in telomere length, which are kind of like protective caps on your DNA that shorten as you age. Longer telomeres, that's linked to healthier aging. If you're feeling the effects of aging, maybe it's slower recovery, brain fog, or skin that's lost its luster and glow, hyperbaric oxygen might be a powerful tool to help you feel sharper, stronger, and more vibrant. Go to oxyhealth.com, that's OXYHEALTH.com, and type in discount code HEALTHYDOC10 for your first order. So what other tests are you running besides, so you're doing you've got an Elissa Goodman panel that you run on, a wellness panel that you run on everyone.
Yeah. I mean, CBC with differential, you know, just whole iron panels, like I said, insulin, cortisol, A1C, the C-reactive protein. That was a fascinating one the other day because this client had tested his CRP in like April, and it was like in the perfect zone. And then we tested it July, and it was at a 32.
Wow.
And so, but come to find out, when he did the blood work, he had COVID.
I was just going to say, he had a virus.
Right.
Usually it's usually post-viral or during viral.
Right.
Yeah. So it's good to monitor that. C-reactive protein, and also look at the values and the reference ranges.
Yeah.
Like anything above 0.5 or 0.6 and definitely above 1, I'm definitely suspect that they have inflammation going on.
Right.
And also homocysteine. We're measuring homocysteine levels.
Yeah, definitely.
Inflammatory marker.
Right. And there's a lot of folate deficiencies, as you see, and B12 deficiencies, as you know, because you love B12. And
I love B12.
And all of that. I mean, methylation is really important. I mean, what is it? Half the population doesn't methylate or more. So that's crucial. And people what is that? What is the MTHFR gene? And what's
Let's talk about it
methylation?
then.
And yeah, it's really crucial. I mean, especially if you have autoimmune issues or cancer, right? It's, you really need to know if you methylate or not. So it's phase 2 of the detoxification process, right?
Absolutely.
So, but I think you also give everybody methylated folate just to be safe.
I just do
And
anyways.
I do too.
Yeah. I mean, I test people for this. So there's this SNP we can measure in the blood called MTHFR. And either you'll have a double positive or a positive and a negative, or you'll be negative. It's weird because I'm seeing less people with the negative. I see very few. I mean, almost everyone is showing up with a wild type or the homozygous positive, which means a lot of the population is having problems, with detoxification in the phase 2 of the liver. Because the liver, we have phase 1 and phase 2.
Right.
And also with that helps with conversion of hormones. So we end up with these sludge of what I coined the term in 2015, dirty hormones. You end up with these excess hormones that are just floating around. It's kind of like a nightclub. I used to go night clubbing when I was younger, back in the day. And it's like a lineup to get into the nightclub. The toxins are waiting to get in. And if you don't get in, you leave, right? And what happens when you leave, when those toxins leave, they recycle and they get even more toxic.
Right.
So it's better to get them out right then and there. And this is why detoxification is so important.
Right.
And everybody thinks that, we need to detox, but we constantly need to detox.
Right. Daily.
Daily, because we're exposed to how many toxins a day?
Oh, I mean, trillions, right? In
your
the water and the food and the products we use. And I mean, it's just
the air we breathe. I mean, it's everywhere, and
I think we're born toxic, right? We come into the world with toxins. So, some more than others, and we don't realize it. Yeah. And I don't think people realize how important it is to detox daily.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. I mean, if you and I right now were to take the same drug, we would metabolize that drug 1,000-fold differently. So it's incredible that there's that one size fits medicine model that you and I believe in.
Yeah.
And that the drug companies are just giving everybody the same drug, especially for women, we need to be so delicate once we've hit the age of 40 and above, because that's when things start, we start to have the dance of hormones doing different things, and our livers are getting rid of toxins a lot more differently. So it's super interesting in that way how you practice. We
and
practice.
I feel the same way with supplements, right?
Yes.
Some work for some don't work for others, different dosages, right?
I heard you muscle test.
I muscle test on myself.
Let's talk about that. Let's tell everybody, because as a naturopathic doctor, a lot of my colleagues, the older NDs, would do the muscle testing.
Exactly.
And us newer NDs 20 years ago, we were like, what are you doing? That's a bit woo-woo, but it's interesting because I feel like it works.
It does. It does. I mean, I just really sort of, ground myself, stand up, right? Just ground my feet and plant them into the earth.
Okay.
As much as I can. And then I put the supplement on my gut, my
So
stomach.
let's tell everybody what muscle testing is. Let's start with that.
So really muscle testing is your body really letting you know if the supplement works for you or not, or what food even too, right? You can muscle test anything.
Yeah.
Herbs and food and supplements. And it's just, I think our intuition and instincts know what works for us and what doesn't work. Right. I'm not sure I'm giving the correct definition.
No, it's right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's totally, it's an energy.
Energy. Right.
Right. And so when you put it on
I put it on my stomach.
When
and
you're standing up?
I'm standing up.
You're holding it?
Yeah. I'm standing up, grounded. and I put it on my stomach, and I basically say, hey, is this B vitamin good for me? Like right for me? And my body will move forward if it's a yes and back if it's a no. And it's kind of wild because I'm definitely not moving my body.
Right.
And then I'll say, should I take 1 or 2 capsules? And it will be one, forward or back if I need. And
Oh my gosh.
it usually is completely right on.
I think I do that automatically without even knowing it.
You do.
Some days I skip certain supplements because I'm like, no, this isn't good for me today.
Right. I agree. I do too. And then I love the arm out muscle testing when you hold on. I love that too. But I used to do that when I saw
But somebody else has to do it for you,
someone else has to do it,
So you have to hold it and somebody pushes it down.
Yeah, you hold the supplement and then
Yes.
I would do it on my clients when I saw them in person, but I don't see them in person right now. So I just try to get them to also just tune in more.
Yes.
Tune in with the food, tune in with the supplements, tune in with just everything. I mean, I think our intuition knows 100% what is right and what is not right.
Our body tells us so much. We just have to listen to it.
We don't. We don't listen.
We are trying. We're trying. I think we've become, since COVID, I think wellness has become like the new fashion.
That's
people are spending more money on health and wellness hacks more than anything. Like who's buying Prada bags and all that stuff anymore? People want experiences. They want longevity. We're living longer. Look at you and I. We're in our 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, remember the show The Golden Girls?
Right.
Like, weren't they in their 50s and 60s? I mean,
yes.
Look at the difference between, you know what I mean? Like, we're bringing sexy back to longevity and slow aging and optimal aging. And I think that's really kind of cool. And I think that's like, we're kind of the pioneers in this. So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited about that too, because I love feeling good at 64. Like, there's nothing better that I can say when I wake up in the morning and be like, I have no aches and pains. I just am like, wow, I'm energized. I feel good. I love life. I'm happy. And it just all is because of, what I've done for myself to get healthy.
And you've been through the ringer.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
I mean, the cancer diagnosis, I think you were in your 30s.
I was 32. Yeah. Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then got Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, celiac, ended up getting anxiety, insomnia in those days as well. And then husband dying of cancer at 45. And then revisiting all of those issues and then some. I went into menopause at 45. So and then later on, still experiencing health issues, with insomnia and just all kinds of digestive issues and some blood sugar things that we've talked about. So it's just, I'm definitely not out of the clear with still health stuff that's going to go on. I know that I'm going to experience more, but it doesn't scare me. So that's the biggest thing. I think I know I'll get past it.
You're in control. Right. You're in the driver's seat and you're taking control, and you can really see it by looking at you. Like, your skin is beautiful. And I always talk about the skin comes from within.
Yeah.
And you really are the poster child for your project, I mean, that your cleanse project. You really are walking the walk, and you look incredible, and your energy is incredible. We touched on something towards the end where you said, it's an emotional thing, and it's a constant thing that we're working on from within. And we touched on it a little bit, but I want to get into it to end with this, is the trauma that we store in our cells.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Tell me about your experience with that.
That is, we could do a whole podcast on that episode.
We're going to have you question. Back. Yeah.
But I feel like, I grew up in a very traumatic household. My mom was a little bipolar and just a full-on narcissist. And so it was just tricky to grow up with someone like that. So never really felt confident, secure, in my ability to trust myself. So that in itself was huge. And also that's why I was sick all the time growing up. So I feel like, a lot of that, as I got the cancer and then my husband passed away, and I'm realizing, wow, I'm, that subconscious is huge in terms of like still reliving. I did talk therapy for years, but I didn't really feel like I got better. I could manage my anxiety or depression or, the trauma that would come up for me, but I didn't feel like I got better with that. So I went into plant medicine, did ayahuasca and mushrooms and, ketamine and all those things. And a lot of those things just completely changed my life in terms of the trauma mode. Like really, I was able to viscerally see, what had happened to me growing up in my childhood and why I felt so in fight or flight mode, or just felt so fearful of the future or fearful of death or fearful of, another illness. So once I got a hold of like, wow, I don't have to live like that. And I never even knew what calm felt like growing up. So that was a huge one. I mean, yes, we have meditation out there. We have breath work, right? We have beautiful things, modalities to get us calm. But if we don't know what is causing us to not be calm, right, that's hard. We can practice those modalities and they're great. Just like talk therapy was great. Just like eating healthy is great. But we've got to get to a place where we release the trauma. And 95% of us are dealing from a subconscious point of view. And I think that's what drives us. It's crazy. 5% is conscious. So when I did all the, plant medicine, I was able to really release viscerally my trauma. There's still trauma there, of course, because I still got work to do. But that was like exceptional in my health, journey. Like my thyroid went back into alignment. My antibodies went down when I did all of this. My anxiety lessened, like just sleep went back, to normal. Like it was just wild in terms of how beautiful it was. And also my relationships changed. So bigger things came into my world and my relationships with my family and friends were better. That was, and the intimacy part, of all that was beautiful because that's what I wanted in my life.
It helps you see what you can't see.
Exactly.
Which is really incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you for sharing that. That's really incredible. I love plant medicine. I do find that there's definitely a place for that.
Yeah.
And I do think we'll be seeing more of it in the future. I think we're just on the
know.
cutting edge of
we
it.
are.
I think we're gonna get there.
Because there are now doctors doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
MDs,
Yes.
trauma surgeon I know who does it, like an OBGYN like beautiful people who have investigated this and really feel like it's important, in people's health journey.
Oh, there's a lot of research being put into it.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. And it's so exciting to hear your personal journey with it, literally. From PMS to perimenopause to menopause to postmenopause, I've lived through it all. And through every stage, one thing becomes clear. Hormone fluctuations change how our bodies regulate temperature, especially at night. When your body overheats, even slightly, it disrupts deep, restorative sleep. The kind of sleep your hormones, metabolism, and mood depend on. That's why I can't live without my Rani Lounge pajamas. Their advanced technology activates natural fibers, making the fabric moisture-resistant, naturally fresh, and ultra-breathable, allowing your body to stay cool and regulate temperature the way nature intended. Better temperature control means deeper sleep, better recovery, and a body that feels truly at ease. Whether at home or traveling, staying cool, fresh, and comfortable has never felt so effortless. Go to RaniLounge.com, that's RaniLounge.com, and use my code HealthyDog15 and get 15% off your first order and experience sleep the way it was meant to be. Did we miss anything, Elissa? Is there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about?
I would say that I always talk about this on podcast. It's part of the emotional component. It's like the self-love pot plate piece, because I know when I did my journeys, I saw that I didn't love myself. I saw that, that peacefulness never entered into my world. So I feel like, loving yourself is so crucial, like really not in an ego way, but just as a self-preservation of really, that's how we get healthy.
Yeah.
Like you're the way to take those steps forward, to go see you or to get the proper blood work done or to take the right supplements or to go do the cleanse. I think it's a part of self-love. And like, I love myself enough that I want to get better
Yes.
and I want to heal and I want to also feel good and I want to be here for a long period of time. I
Right.
hear that a lot from people, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want to live a long life. I
Right.
want to see my grandchildren and,
Yeah.
you know, my kids get married and
But you want to feel good
you
doing
want to
it.
feel good doing it. Yeah. Energize, you know.
Yes.
So I think that that's huge. You know, the self-love component. I ask all my clients, do you love yourself? And they
Wow.
say no. And no one's ever asked me that question. That's what they say. Like, no one's asked me, do I love myself? But a doctor did that for me. At 32, when I was going through my diagnosis, a doctor at St. John's said, do you love yourself? Do you love your job? Do you love your husband? Do you love your life? And I just burst into tears. And I was like, I don't even know what that is, like what that feels like, what that should feel like. You know, no one's ever asked me that. And he goes, that is crucial
Wow.
in your healing journey.
That's beautiful, Elissa. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's all about love.
It
That's
is.
all it is.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Right. All we need is love.
All we need is love. I have 3 last questions to ask you.
Okay.
One of them is, and you know I'm going to ask this question because you know who I am and what I do. The first question is, what would you say is normal for a bowel movement for, if you were to talk to your patients, how many bowel movements should they have a day?
This is a bit controversial in my world because
Well, that's what I want to know.
I
wanna
know. I
what
mean, you
think.
know, I get so much flack. I feel we should go to the bathroom after every meal.
Yes.
Okay.
We are so aligned. We are so aligned. I agree.
You know, people are like, no possible way. That
I know.
just can't happen,
I
you
know.
know?
I know.
So, like, I definitely think we should be like your beautiful dog here and like eat and go.
Yeah, 3 times a day.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
okay, great.
Right.
How many times do you have a bowel movement a
So,
day?
I do have it twice. I don't go 3.
Okay. So,
Damn.
me too.
I know. I think I need to do another GI map with you. So.
No, you know what? I do think it's dependent on how much food you're actually eating.
Yeah,
I think that's
Right.
that's the key.
And the right food.
yeah, so if you're not eating,
Fiber
not
and-
everybody's going to have 3 bowel movements a day.
Yeah.
But I think between 2 and 3 is about good.
Yeah.
And then my last question is, what is your love language?
Oh, I'm an affectionate person, like in terms of like hugs, kisses.
I guessed it.
I can't get enough. I love to hug people, probably too much. I hope I don't like
no.
offend, you know, people, but I love to
love
hug
to-
and I love to touch, you know, even just touching someone's hand or arm is just, it's just the energy that you
beautiful.
get from them, you know, if they're in that same, if their love language is the
Right.
same sort of, or, you know, their energy.
Even if there isn't, I mean, your energy is so beautiful, you'll convert them.
Yeah.
You know?
I hope so.
They'll have several love language. Well, my love language
Yeah.
is, of course, is I like gifts, but I also like giving.
Okay.
So I'm going to end this with giving you my love language, the gift of a poop test, a stool test that I want
Seriously?
you to do. Yep. This
That's-
is my gift to you.
That's your love language, is giving me a poop test.
yeah.
Okay.
I like
I'm
getting
not sure
gifts
I'm
and
gonna
I
hug
like
you
giving
after
gifts.
this.
I mean,
Just kidding.
if anyone is
Okay.
going to understand
Yeah,
this, it's
I
you.
do.
And you
I do.
just finished
Yeah.
saying I need to do
I
a
do.
stool test.
I
And
do
of course,
need to do another one.
ta-da, you just manifested that.
I did.
So we're going to run and we're going to see like your short chain fatty acids. We're going to see how your pancreas is working.
How my candida's doing
the
after
candida's
last fall.
doing after. Yeah. So it'll be super fun for us to review that once you do it.
I think I'm.
Elissa, thank you so much for being on my podcast. This was so informative. I've had so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being my friend, and thank you for being in my world. Like, I love to be able to converse with you and figure out, you know, learn from you. That's what's so beautiful. I just have so much to learn, and like, I just love when I can be able to have access to someone so beautiful in every way. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Elissa.